you doing? I'm your host, John Fiore. I appeared in 2 seasons of The Sopranos, the controversial saga of a New Jersey crime family. That's New Jersey across the river. For many people, their only image of the Garden State was what they saw outside their car windows as they traveled up and down the New Jersey Turnpike. It wasn't a pretty picture unless you're into oil refineries and toxic waste. But in 1999, something happened. Was it some new governmental project? A statewide beautification program? No. It was the premiere of The Sopranos on HBO. 6 seasons and 86 episodes later, it's become a television icon. Suddenly, gritty locations in aging industrial cities like Elizabeth, Newark, and Patterson became the backdrop for the Sopranos story. And more followed, like North Caldwell, Morris Plains, Little Falls, Lodi, Verona. Many of these locations have become household names like the Bada Bing in Pizza Land. Tourists from all over the world want to visit the Soprano family home. And Holston's, where the last scene was shot. And it's really something. I did about a dozen episodes as Gigi Sestone, a Capo and Tony's crew. I even whacked a few guys, but you know what? I'll always be remembered for what happened to me in episode 34. I died. No hail of bullets, not even one neat shot behind the head. I died literally in the head. Yeah, I had to go out on the toilet, but when you gotta go, you gotta go. But I sure love being part of The Sopranos, a true cultural phenomenon. So by popular demand, I'm gonna take you on an exclusive tour of the actual locations where The Sopranos are shot, both with a camera and a gun.
Bang, 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 and he shot him.
Along the way, you'll meet some of the cast and crew.
The weapon of choice? Oh, a baseball bat.
Hear real inside stories.
Everybody wants to know what happened to the Russian.
See behind-the-scenes video footage. And a whole lot more.
I'm gonna give up what happens in the 5th season.
You could always expect bloopers.
Birdman, hello?
Yeah, the homework. For work. Stupid fuck, excuse me.
It's got that and all kind of crazy stuff.
I'm very unlike Tony Soprano. I'm a sweet gentleman.
Hey, driver, we got to get down to the Lincoln Tunnel. We're here on Route 7 in North Arlington, New Jersey, stopped right in front of Pizza Land, one of the most recognizable locations on The Sopranos, even though it's only seen for a few seconds at the opening of every show.
So at the beginning of each episode, they show a clip of Pizza Land. And really, we never really shot an episode there, and I never even had a slice there, but this guy's doing great business because people are calling up and they're ordering pizzas from all over the country so they can have a slice of pizza from Pizza Land. God bless Pizza Land.
So, they use your sign every week, Pizza Land on the show, Sopranos. So you get like 10 million viewers a week, say, in the US, and then worldwide.
They're going by every day, flashing lights at me, taking pictures.
So they've never shot here, have they?
No, not inside here. They've been here a few times. I've had James Gandolfini here, and a few other guys, Van Zandt here.
Good.
They're eating the pizza, they know what it's like.
So do you get calls from other states for your pizza?
It's unbelievable how many calls I get. From California to Maine and all the way down to Utah. Everywhere. Everyone wants a Soprano Pizza Land pizza. They don't care if it's ice cold. They just want it in their hands. They want to be part of the Sopranos.
They call you long distance, say, send me a pizza.
Unbelievable. They don't care what it costs. They just want it out there.
Amazing.
So we just ship them ice cold. It's a big bucks. It's not cheap.
Hey, Tony, thanks for the stories, man.
Great.
Thank you. Yo, driver, pull up by that cemetery. This is the Jersey City Cemetery located at the intersection of Newark and Palisade Avenue. You could almost say it's the official home of the deceased Sopranos. Among those buried in this cemetery are Johnny Boy Soprano, that's Tony's dad, Livia, his mom, and one of Tony's closest and dearest friends, Jackie Aprile Sr. Missing from the list are other notables like Big Pussy, who of course had a burial at sea. Richie Aprile, who was turned into ground round, and me. In this unique footage from the filming, Edie Falco's dog kept running into the scene, ruining take after take. The scenes you've been watching are from Jackie Aprile Jr.'s funeral at the end of the 3rd season, which was attended by most of the cast.
I don't know the ending here, so it's kind of interesting. It's a little like life. Each week they just give me a different set of circumstances. I don't know what's going to happen. They'll probably kill me next year, so I don't know.
Lorraine Bracco even visited the Jersey City Cemetery during filming in the episode titled In Camelot.
There's always a lot of fun with the cast shooting in the cemetery. Before doing his next take, Jim Gandolfini jokes around the clapboard girl.
The Jersey City Cemetery is also where Tony's aunt was laid to rest in the episode titled In Camelot. It's where Tony meets up with his father's old girlfriend, Fran Feldstein, played by Paulie Bergen. This eventually leads to Tony collecting an old debt owed to Fran from some of the guys, including Phil Liortardo. However, Phil is trying to dodge payment to Tony, which brings us to a big chase filmed on Grand Avenue in Queens.
The big chase scene between Phil and Tony took place at Grand Avenue, and the problem we had essentially with that scene was the timing when Phil came out of the ice cream store, and Tony ran across the street to say hello to him, and Phil would get in the car to ignore him and pull away. That was a pretty tricky shot to make.
Grand Avenue is not a small street. It's a very, very big street. It's a major avenue out there. And that's one of the reasons we had to shoot on a Sunday, because the city could only control the traffic on a lighter traffic day like Sunday.
The entire stunt along Grand Avenue was staged and blocked out on a Sunday. No actors. It was the stunt driver doubles, cars, and director Steve Buscemi. To get things right, it takes many hours of work to render just a few minutes of film.
Sunday we did all the big wide shots and the action stuff with the stunt drivers.
The next day, Jim Gandolfini and myself shot the big car chase scene with the stunt doubles on hand. This is the first episode that my character Phil drove a red '98 Lincoln Town Car.
First thing we did was the lead-in scene where Frank Vincent is across the street and Tony's trying to get his attention to ask him about something, and Frank Vincent's character, Phil Liortardo, blows him off basically and drives off. This enrages Tony Soprano. He jumps into his white Escalade, takes off after him, and that's the chase. When the car crashes into the Boar's Head truck, of course that's not Frank Vincent sitting in that car when the crash happens.
I believe that Mike Russo did the stunts. And I know that he, when he hit that truck, he moved that truck 14 inches. That's how hard he hit it. And then I had to get back in the car, and the safety bag was exploded. Then Jim came in and grabbed me, and we did that final scene. When he got out of the car, he said, Everything's all right. Everything's all right. We sent for the ambulance. He's okay. He's okay. And that was quite a big scene to do. We had a lot of people in the street then. Sometimes Jimmy gets a little playful on the set. I had to explain to Jimmy that I just had open heart surgery.
They crashed the car, and they loved the first take. They did have a second car standing by in case they didn't love the first take, but you don't want to ask a stunt driver to do that more than once if you can avoid it. Guy did a great crash into the back of the truck, and then he gets out, Frank Vincent steps in.
Once they wreck a car like that, you know, it was a one-take deal because it's a very dangerous stunt they had to do. He had to catch the right front fender for safety reasons. And we used 2 cars. We had doubles. Well, you always have doubles on cars anyway in case. And I think one of them overheated.
It was an extremely hot day, and the car had a mechanical problem, and we were waiting to see if it could be solved. The production had another car standing by just in case. You think of everything, believe me.
During that whole chase that we shot, Steve was in the car with me. Steve, he was in the behind, and then Steve Buscemi, he directed that episode, and he was in the car. So with the camera guys, and that's how the big guys did it anyway. And it was a long day, and it was a great scene. It came out great.
Even though it was a sweltering day, and everybody gets a little uncomfortable in the heat, we still try to have fun. You know, James definitely had his moments of trying to goof around that day. You have to try to keep it light because you already know everybody's miserable. The heat is just unbearable. And you're gonna be there all day because the sun doesn't go down in the summer until 9 o'clock at night. So you just know you're in for the long haul. So you just try to make it as fun as possible. That episode was directed by Steve Buscemi, who this season was doing directing and was actually a new character being introduced, Tony Blundetto. So he had double duty on this. And we did all that stuff on Monday, which is a little tough because Sunday we had complete control of the streets, and the police guaranteed that we had these blocks completely 4-hour use. But Monday was a work day, and everybody else is going to work, and we're trying to shoot this scene, and it got a little hairy there because real cars were driving through the scene, and these weren't stunt drivers all the time, knowing when Jim Gandolfini is going to run across the street. And then you have people curiously looking at the camera or waving, and you know, oh, who's this, Sopranos? Hey, Tony! And all that sort of thing going on. And it's just out in the middle of the street. It's not a backlot, which gives the show an authentic look instead of a backlot look when you see a show shot in New York, but it's definitely a LA backlot. So it has that real feel, but then you have to deal with the real world also, which is another aspect of filmmaking.
The crowds are there, and the production has to maintain order. They have a lot of people working as production assistants who have to keep this quiet, keep that quiet. I mean, you have that with this kind of a show all the time, and they have to keep the order, and that's the way it is. And if the crowd's out of order, then it interrupts the shot, so you have to start all over again.
Let's take another look at the scene where Tony confronts Phil. Besides timing issues, a whole lot of things went haywire trying to shoot this scene. There were bloopers, blunders, and retakes galore.
The problem we had was Jimmy getting across the street and me getting in the car in time to pull away so Jimmy could run back to the car and proceed to chase me in my car.
Here, the gear shift lever jams up, blowing the take. Holding up filming, the director Steve Buscemi and stunt coordinator Pete Picozzi attempt to resolve the gear shift problem. That day, the street was not totally shut down, and real traffic had to pass through periodically. This frustrated the hell out of James Gandolfini. Here are some of the takes back to back. James Gandolfini likes to break the tension sometimes by fooling around.
That was a pretty rough sequence to shoot because it was middle of summer, it was very hot, and there was just a lot of noise and commotion of the world around where we were shooting. And that mixed in with what we were trying to do, which wasn't simple stuff, and always keeping safety in mind. It was a tough sequence to do.
This is where, in season 3, Gloria worked as a sales representative and Tony came to see her.
This area was converted to our customer waiting room for the show. This is where Gloria introduces herself to Carmela and then offers her a ride home.
Gloria, tell her. Carmela Soprano, you sure you don't mind? Give me a minute, I'll get a demo.
All the people that were here were absolutely marvelous. They took great care of us. They offered us breakfast, lunch. They offered to help move cars. We must have moved at least 60 cars one day. They must have came with at least a dozen trucks, lights, every possible equipment you could imagine. It was very exciting. We got to put headsets on and watch right behind them, filming everything. I mean, they were all pretty wonderful. It was almost like having a whole movie studio right here.
How you doing? I'm Johnny Pacelli. I'm a manager at Rascals Comedy Club in West Orange, New Jersey. And The Sopranos filmed here in the 3rd season. Meadow and Jackie Aprio Jr. were playing pool inside. They had an argument, she ran outside, and she crashed his car on the side of the building. Come on, let me show you where it is. The preparation for filming started about 9 o'clock in the morning and it went to 2 o'clock at night. You wouldn't believe the equipment they used here. They had scaffolding, they had monitors, they had screens, cameras. People were running around going crazy. To just do a little scene like this, you wouldn't believe the time that it took.
That night outside Rascals was rough. I mean, Rascals was a comedy club, but it wasn't a very funny night. We had the stunts going, and you never see the actual car crash, but they had put a car on a hill like this for the car crash with Meadow inside, and this was a steep hill. It was all rigged so the car was safe and all that. But it rained. By the time we got to that section of the shooting, it had rained, and now this hill was like a mudslide. So here comes Jason sliding down this hill. At this point, it's what used to be safe is now a little dicey, but that was a really great scene.
Oh, you guys all right? We're fine. We're totally fine. When we got hurt, we were tired. Fuck the car, hold the control.
Pussy Bumpin' Sarah's sideline was auto body shops. That was like his front. You wreck them, I'll fix them.
So after the big car chase and Phil Leotardo's crashed his car, Tony Soprano agrees to have the car fixed, and where do we end up but Cleveland Auto Body Shop, Pussy's old shop.
Big Pussy was, by that time, swimming with the fishes, and Phil went in to see the car, and he didn't like what he saw. In the episode, we learned that through a deal brokered by Johnny Sack, Tony would pay to fix Phil's Lincoln that he caused to smash into a Boar's Head truck. Tony sends Phil to the Cleveland Auto Body at Harrison, New Jersey. It's run by Big Pussy's widow, Angie, played by Tony Caleb, and Pussy's brother, Duke, played by Phil LaRocca. I was accompanied by Joe Marazzo, playing my henchman, Joey Peeps.
Phil is very particular about how his car should be fixed, and even demands that a dent on the back of the car be fixed, even though the accident happened to the front of the car.
So he said it was unacceptable and to get it fixed. So they came back with Peeps, and they were checking the car out, and Phil got in and said it was off kilter. And
Phil Leotardo's milking this accident for all he can get. Goes on to complain about how the paint is different, it's too dull, it's not like the old paint. Then he starts adjusting the seat, saying the seat's not the same like it used to be. Well, Angie Bumpancero, of course, is trying to not lose their shirt on this deal, so Tony sends his cousin Tony Blundetto over there to make things right and to kind of be a go-between.
they made Steve Buscemi's character, who was Tony B, get in the car, and he said that this seems 100% right to me. And Phil said, how could it be good if it's a rye? But the best line is, you can try it out until San Junard. Tony B was looking at Peeps, and they were making eye contact, shaking their heads. So Phil says to Peeps, he says, "What's the matter, Joe? You got an eye problem? You look like Stevie Wonder, your fucking eyes rolling around in your head." And that was a funny scene. But now listen, every word of dialogue is written and not improvised in this show.
Michael Imperioli wrote that episode, so he was at the auto body shop the whole time.
And Michael and I have done many, many movies together, and people don't realize it, but the writers are always on set for every episode of The Sopranos. They were on set, so if you had to change a word, you had to go to the writer, and the writer would look, see what you wanted to do, and he'd have to call headquarters and ask the boss. In the episode Marco Polo, my character is wearing a neck brace, and it's not very comfortable wearing a neck brace, and you have to do a scene. That's the second time I had to wear a neck brace. The first time was in a movie called Debt Collector, and I got shot in the neck.
Oh, it's Satriel's pork store. Hey, stop the car. This is Kearney, New Jersey, and fans know that Satriel's has been used for more than just grinding pork. Let's just say that a few unfortunates have found themselves as part of the sausage.
I think that after Richie got whacked, and the disposal of the body was an absolutely necessary procedure. Satriel's now offers this very tasty Sicilian dish called April Sausage.
In Goodfellas, they took the body up and buried it and covered it with lime, but then we realized they had to go back and dig the body out because somebody bought the property. Well, the Soprano family is a little more, a little more hip. They kind of really know, listen, if you're gonna get rid of a body, get rid of a body. So they would take the bodies back to Satriel's, chop them up, and mix them in with the cold cuts and the chopped meat, and you'll never see the guy again.
Michael Imperioli has a line there that says, it's gonna be a long time before I buy anything at Satriel's again.
Actually, this isn't even the same store that they used at the start of the series. That was a real pork store named Santani's in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and we'll go there later. After Santani's, they found this building at the intersection of Dukes and Kearney Avenue. Just before David Chase found it, it was gonna be an auto parts store. The producers approached the people who had leased the store and asked if they could use it for just a few months, after which they could have it back. They brought in a pig statue and other ornaments for the roof and put up a bunch of signs, including the now famous Smiling Pig. The local residents got so excited, they actually thought a new pork store was opening up in the neighborhood. But to their dismay, all they found were film trucks, lighting and sound equipment, dozens and dozens of technicians, and a suspicious group of actors all dressed up like mob guys.
I mean, David Chase, he likes locations, and when he felt it was really necessary, and I think for Satriel's, the pork store, it really was a necessary thing. So many things happen at Satriel's, besides just the sandwiches. I thought it really was authentic. Growing up in Coney Island and Brooklyn, I got to be around a lot of pork stores. As a matter of fact, I worked in one. And the meetings outside, the espresso, that whole social club, you might say. I think Tony Soprano strived to be low-key. It worked as a kind of like a Trojan horse in a way, that same kind of a thing, a front for the things that happened there.
Here, a production van drops off some of the cast filming at Satriale's pork store. They include Jerry Adler, who plays Hesh, a good friend Joe Ganascoli, who is Big Vito, followed by Bobby Finaro, who plays Eugene, Dan Grimaldi, who plays Patsy Parisi, and his twin brother, Philly, who I have the pleasure of whacking, and the great Michael Imperioli, who, of course, plays Christopher. In the 6 seasons of The Sopranos, a long list of cast members shot at this famous location. Frank Vincent as Phil Leotardo also filmed at the pork store and even had a scene with his later-to-be nemesis, Vito Spatafore, played by Joe Ganascoli.
I like Joe a lot. We did some personal appearances together, and that was a funny scene. And that was they wrote a lot of funny stuff for Phil because I guess he needed somebody that could deliver the lines with timing. I had a scene where Jimmy and Phil come out of the pork store, and Phil's greeted and kissed by Vito, who was with the rest of the guys outside, and they discuss custom cufflinks. This was before Phil knew that he was gay. Phil should have known something was up then, especially by that little turquoise outfit he was wearing. Looked like fucking Little Richard.
It's a fucking... They had me in a teal jacket because of my weight loss, and they wanted to show that I was becoming very fashionable. And that was like the first episode of the season 6. Whenever we shot at the pork store, there was always big crowds, a lot of fans, and when we could, we always signed autographs, took pictures.
James Gandolfini's father showed up at the pork store too, as seen in these rare behind-the-scenes photos. James Gandolfini Sr. had an unbilled cameo as a butcher in the episode titled Fortunate Son.
When you show up to a location that you've been to before, like Satriale's, and they do the old version of it, it changes the whole atmosphere of that location. Now you have the old cars parked out front, and they put extra animals up on the top of Satriale's. We normally just have the pig, and they had, you know, a cow and a rooster and all this kind of stuff up there. And it just changes the whole feel and just makes it really feel like a flashback.
Even FBI agent Harris, played by Matt Servito, shows up at Satriale's later in the series. Besides his meetings with Tony Soprano, he also goes there for another reason. In the show, it is also revealed that he loves Satriale sandwiches. Wonder if he knew what they might contain.
I've had the pleasure to work with Tony Sirico and Mikey Imperioli and Stevie Van Zandt in the back room of the pork store where Tony's office is. And it's a lot of fun to be back there with the pool table and the 2 desks and working at the adding machine, adding up all the betting slips, which is usually what I'm doing.
What happened in the back room was what would happen in real life, what any wise guy life is. That's where everybody hung out, and a lot of decisions were made. They had their parties, and they had sit-downs. So that set was very important to the structure of the story.
It was always very difficult filming on the street right in front of the pork store, but the show demanded all the realism possible. Here at one of the famous tables with the checkered tablecloth, Tony and Silvio are joined by Christopher. Among other things, they eventually ended up discussing women, Tony's operation, and the effect it had on his plumbing. At that point, a new character played by Juliana Margulies showed up to discuss a business transaction with Tony. Margulies appeared as a realtor, Juliana Skiff, in 4 episodes of The Sopranos, first being hit upon by Tony, soon becoming the mistress of Christopher, much to Tony's dissatisfaction. Many of the scenes with Juliana took place at Satriale's or right across the street, like this one with Christopher. At the firehouse right by the pork store, Tony questioned Christopher's relationship with Juliana after seeing them talking across the street.
That Kearney Avenue where the pork store is ends up being kind of like a back lot for Sopranos when we're there. We shoot outside the donut shop, the nail salon, our holding area where we have our lunch is in the church across the street. That becomes a very important location for us, and they really get a lot done with that street.
What? The Irish American Club is right next door to Satriale's and usually has an Irish flag on the building. Well, the Sopranos production team would not have that. When the Sopranos shoot here, they pay to take the Irish flag down and change the location to an Italian American club.
In fact, it was used as different locations. It was used for some of the card games, and then it was used for Christmas parties, and it was used in the episode where everybody was playing pool, and the feds came in and found the guns underneath the pool table, and I decided to take a walk, and they caught me. So that was used, that Irish American Club was used many, many times as different locations.
Let's get back to the pork store.
The whole history of Satriale's, which was eventually revealed in later episodes, that was such a great story. Such a great storyline, because to us, Satriale's is just a location. But then to find out that, you know, Satriale had the whole dealing with the Soprano family, and then the deal with the receiving the meats every month and all that, all these nuances of the show, just so wonderful, because sometimes things are alluded to, or there are little clues in the episodes, and then you find out the whole backstory. Like, why do these guys hang out at this pork store?
By season 6, the guys were afraid of modern DNA evidence. After Silvio and Carlo whacked New York soldier Fat Dom in Satriale's back room, it was decided to dispose of the body elsewhere.
So both guys that killed me wound up getting killed. The Fat Dom in the back of Satriale's, he gets stabbed by Arthur Nescarella and Steve Van Zandt, and Jerry Trociano, John Bianca got killed in a restaurant.
You are looking at the run-through for a scene in the next-to-last episode, The Blue Comet. It's when Agent Harris ends up warning Tony that Phil Leotardo and his New York guys are on the warpath and intend to rub out Tony and his crew. As you can see, Tony has not yet started eating his sandwich, but is conserving it for the actual takes. He decides to juggle his sandwich instead. These photos are from the very last shoot at Satriale's pork store. They are from the final episode, Made in America. The additional shots you are now looking at didn't appear in the episode. They feature Jim Gandolfini with cast members Jeff Marchetti, Max Casella, Dan Grimaldi, Frank John Hughes, and Tony Sirico. Here is what it looks like from the pig's perspective. Here is series creator David Chase having a little snooze on set. But hey, after producing 86 Soprano episodes, you would be tired too.
Hey, whoa, wait a minute. We're right in front of Santani's. Remember when I told you about this place when we visited Satriale? This was the original location. There's Mike and Marlene, the owners. So I understand you got a few stories to tell me about how they used the store in the show.
Yeah, come on around the back.
Wow. This is it, the back room, huh, Mike?
This is where it happened.
Unbelievable. Epic scenes, obviously, were filmed here.
That's the block.
Block?
The block.
The one that Michael Imperioli's character,
Imperioli
Christopher...
wasted the guy there.
That's not the guy, is it?
Nah. That was the guy from last week.
Oh, that's last week's guy. Did you ever think that your store would be linked to TV history?
No, I never thought of that.
So after they used this in the pilot, now I noticed some of the signs, like the three-dimensional pig.
Yes.
Somehow appears at Satriale's. What's up with that?
Well, they took it from my rooftop and they put it on their store.
They did, huh?
They copied everything from my shop. The cow's head,
right?
The pig,
the
lighted pig
smiling
outside,
thing?
the smiling pig. Yeah, that's
That's amazing.
And it's still outside there.
So how come they moved off to Satriale?
Well, this area was too busy for them to keep as a site to shoot their...
Trucks and all that.
Yeah, it's too busy, and everybody made a complaint when they did it the first time, so they just didn't want to put up with it.
They probably take you back in open arms now, but I don't think we were welcome too much that first day. It's easy to shoot anything on a set than just to go and put all your equipment on the street and ask somebody if we could use your location for the day, and then you got to block the streets down and shut down a guy's business. So when we moved into Kearney and had our own pork store and our own back room in back of the pork store, and had our own exterior where we could sit at the tables outside, it was much, much easier for the actors and for the crew and for everybody. There was once a big pussy who roamed through New Jersey. He ratted on Tony, and now he sleeps with the fishes.